Hi, welcome back to the channel. Carrying on from the last episode, a big thank you to everybody that sent me messages. It was really helpful. We got to the stage where we'd taken out the barrels, found the issue with the rings. I've since cleaned all the pistons up. There was quite a lot of gunk that was actually in the ring area. Maybe I missed that originally, I'm not sure, but say they've all been cleaned. I'll oil them as well when we put the rings back in. I've given the actual barrels a once over, checked the actual surface, given it a clean over, did the flat rule across all different angles. All came out get my words out. All came out okay. Did have one comment from John Boy, which said check the actual barrels themselves. One for the condition, two for the actual sizes. Make sure everything's still within tolerance. I've checked everything from bottom end, top end, measured. They are within the measurements of the actual Haynes manual. Actually dug that out. All the specifications are in the front. So they've all been cleaned and checked. I've also done the same with the underside of the cylinder head itself. Given that another clean over, checked everything, gone across with a steel rule just to make sure everything is perfectly straight. For those that have watched it from the actual start, that was actually clamped in a homemade sort of wooden block to actually keep it straight. That's all come out okay. Again, the rings, they were brand new. I've given them a clean as well. They're still in the same order as what we left it from the last episode. So today I'm going to go back in, check the gaps, put the rings actually in the barrel. I've already got the feeler gauge ready. It's 15 thou. Should be the gap. So we'll check that. Then we can, I'll oil round, refit the rings, and then hopefully we can start putting stuff back into the bike. I will give the pins another clean over and another oil. Gasket is all ready to go, nice and soft. Again, with these gaskets, you've got a flat side and a slightly curved side. It's flat side down. You'll see the hole at the front, which actually corresponds with the hole in the front of the barrels, which is towards the front. And then we'll start to put everything back in again, and hopefully when it's all back up, rebuilt, we can run another compression check and see if the compression is any better. But that's the plan for today, so let me get set up and we'll start getting these rings in one at a time and gap them. Right, I'll start that piece again because I actually thought I'd press record on the camera and hadn't, so there's me talking away and it wasn't filming anything. Right, the feeler gauge, I've got out the 15 thou. The actual pistons I've cleaned, they were quite dirty. I'd obviously missed it, so mistake on my part. They're all now nice and clean. So that was obviously the one that was giving us the problems. The rings still laid out on the table, exactly the same. It's got top, So the first thing, I'm going to take the actual top ring, slide that in the bore. I'll show you in a second. I'm just going to use the piston to actually push it down and level it up. As you can see the ring, and you can see the gap. And just make sure that's yep, and that fits in there nicely, and that's 15th hour, which is what it should be. So we'll repeat the process with the next ring. That's the next ring in. And again, that gap is fine. So I need to complete all the other rings. So I've just got the oil ring and then the other side to do exactly the same. Obviously when I move to this cylinder, I'll actually do it in the proper corresponding cylinder. But the gaps are coming out where they should be. So let me get all the rest of them done. I'll check them and I'll bring you back when I'm on the last one. Okay, so I'm just about to check. The last ring. Yeah, exactly fine. Again, 15th hour. So we know that now the barrels are okay, measurements are fine, surface is flat, pistons have been cleaned, as I say, with oil round, and the actual gaps on the rings are correct. But obviously these two rings that were literally stuck in there would explain something towards why there was no compression in this side, but then it won't explain why there was only 75 psi in this side, because all them rings were free moving right widths. Very strange. But we'll move on to the next job, which is actually I use some assembly lube oil just to coat into the grooves and then fit each ring as it came out. Right, the other thing I want to do, I've just gone round and double checked on this one. Piece of wire actually just poking through. You can see in there the actual oil holes. Just to make sure actually clogged. No, all fine on that one. So obviously you've got the ones where the actual oil ring sits, and then you've got the ones underneath in the piston. Alright, so that's all the oil holes checked on both pistons. I'll use some assembly lube and then we can fit the actual rings. I'm just trying to make sure that I cover every single base and don't miss anything. A bit too much. Alright, so that's the first one oiled round. Now it's just a case of back on. With the actual rings. Again, staggering the gaps. So that's the first one done. All I've got to do now is exactly the same process again with the left hand side. So that's the other set of rings on, oiled. First set, I say oiled and all staggered. I put a light liberal coating of oil in the barrels, and then we can actually start to get it back in the bike and start rebuilding it again. The only thing I've got to do is I need to put a little cable tie just round the actual plungers. So it actually keeps them, you can see one's dropped there, so I need to keep them up so they don't drop inside the engine. So I'll get that done, and then I can get the pistons refitted, and then we'll slide the barrels over. So I'm all ready for the first piston. I've already got the circlip in the inner side. I've oiled up the pin. So it's just a case of pushing it through. Right, that's the first one. I just need to push that in a little bit more, then I can get the circlip on. And now I just need to repeat the process for this side. So that's the second piston in, and the actual circlip. So the next job is to start getting the barrels over. Get them down so far, then I can remove the board. The actual gasket is still there. I've checked that over. Again, it's just making sure that these rings, the actual gaps, are actually spaced out. So I'll do that one more time before I slide the barrels over. So again, as I did the first time when I built the engine, cable tied the actual plungers so they don't drop. Still got the seals where it fits around the bottom. So I think we've done everything so far. Everything seems to be okay. So I think what I'll do is, you've seen me put barrels on before, and you saw me actually put these on the first time. I'll get them fitted and I'll bring you back when I'm actually starting to bolt this down. Hopefully, cross fingers, I hope that was the issue. Again, like I said earlier, appreciate everybody's feedback and comments, it really does help. But let me get them barrels on and then we'll crack on with the rest of it. Right, so nearly on with the barrels. I say they're over the rings. Now I can just unclip these cable ties. Out with the boards. And that's the barrels back on. So yeah, a couple of old bits of board, they just did work nicely. Right, so all I've got to do now is actually just bolt it back down again, and I can also take them ties off. It took a bit longer to actually get it back in with it in the frame, but no, it wasn't too bad. I mean, hopefully that was the problem, and hopefully it's now been rectified. But I'll get these bolts back on and get them tightened down. That's the only problem really. It's difficult to actually torque them because you can only get in there with an open-ended spanner. But I just do them as tight down as I can. Right, so that's all the nuts, 2 outers each side, 2 centres, all tightened up. I think for now we'll leave that where it is. Next episode we'll start going back on with the head, get the tubes back in and start reassembly of all these parts. Like I said, the gasket, flatter side down, rolled side facing up. So that actually fit like so. And so obviously we've got the rods to fit. I'm going to go back through the carb again, check that out. But then we can get all this reinstalled and all torqued down. Hopefully that should solve the problem, but I ain't going to know until everything's back in place and I can kick it over and do another compression test and see if there's any difference. And like I say, fingers crossed there will be. So as you've seen on this, I'm just taking it slow, taking it easy, just double checking everything just to make sure that I've got everything right. Luckily it is a fairly easy engine to actually disassemble. Did have a struggle with the barrels trying to get them back in. Did take a while, so that's why I didn't film it. But hopefully, as I say, fingers crossed, that should hopefully solve the problem. Them rings obviously weren't helping when they were stuck. But I say, next episode we'll jump back onto the cylinder head, get that reinstalled, torque all the bolts down, look at the actual cam valve cover tappets, check them, make sure they're correct. I've had a couple of people give me a couple of messages when I'm getting back onto the Z650. I will be on it as soon as I can. I did order a new battery and it made absolutely no difference whatsoever. It was still turning over really slowly. I've ordered another starter motor, second-hand one. I was never confident about the one that I had. It was with the bike. I tried to refurb it, so I've got another one, second-hand one, on the way out of a running bike apparently. Wait for that to get here. I'll probably change the starter relay as well. That might be defective because it just isn't turning over fast enough. But that will be coming. We will get back on that. I haven't forgotten about it. It's just, I suppose in a way, trying to do 2 bikes at once is probably not a very good idea. I just want to get the Triumph sorted. We were so close. Get that up and running. Still a few bits and pieces to do, clutch cable, etc. But it'll be nice to actually hear that properly running. It did, as I say, it did fire up. For anybody that's new to the channel that's not seen the journey with the Triumph, there's a link up in the corner. You can go and see the playlist. Basically starts from the beginning of when it arrived, why it's here, the story behind it, and the build, which has been an absolutely phenomenal journey. I've really appreciated the chance. As I said before, I can't thank Pippa and Ian enough for giving me the opportunity. Okay, it hasn't quite gone to plan, we've got some issues, but hopefully we can get through them and the bike will be going back to them. Any comments in the comments box below. I appreciate all your feedback, all your comments. It does mean a lot. It does help me out. I do try to respond to every comment. It might take me a while, but I get there eventually. Links to other videos at the end of the video, and as always, thanks for watching. Join me next time. Cheers. Bye.